16 days of activism against women and child abuse can remind many of terrible experiences, but others use their experiences to help others to create refuge for other survivors. That's what our guest today, Sihle Sibisi, decided to do when she started the Kwanele Foundation. She joins us now live in studio. Sihle, thank you very much for coming through. Tell us more about your foundation and what it does.
Right, so Kwanele Foundation, Kwanele firstly stands for enough. So enough is enough. So within Kwanele Foundation, we have different campaigns that we focus on. We've got Kwanele Mfundisi, we've got Kwanele In-Laws, and we've got a project where we are going from 2021, we're going to start interacting extensively with schools to try and educate young people about gender-based violence from a younger age, so that basically prevention is better than cure. So that from a young age, a learner learns what is gender-based violence, what is gender, so that they're able to protect themselves and know what is allowed and what not is allowed for them. But right now, what we're focusing on is Kwanele Mfundisi, which is we are standing and advocating against gender-based violence at the hands of pastors, churches, and the spirituality and the religious sector holistically. Most people will ask us, why do we do that? And I say it's based on my own personal experiences, because I was but a victim of gender-based violence under the hands of a church, where I was given away to a church by my parents at the age of 16. So from 16 for about 10 years of my life, during this COVID actually helped me to face myself and say, what actually happened to me for 10 years of my life that I can't account what happened to? And to find that I was in the church, I was given to a church, I stayed in a mission house with other girls. For you to qualify to stay at that mission house, it was the prophet that would handpick you and say you've got a specific calling, you're an evangelist or you're a worshiper, and you need to come stay at the church because he's protecting you from being influenced by the outside world. And staying at the mission house, before you go there, we're subjected to HIV tests. So you have to be tested. At that time, the prophet would say that's because he wants to protect you. If you're HIV positive, he would pray for you to get healed. And if you're not, then obviously. But when you look at it now, it's like, he was just checking out who he wanted to play with. Because most girls were sexually abused in the church. Most girls were sexualized, we were emotionally abused, we were victimized holistically, to a point when sex was the order of the day in the church. It was a norm. It's like we all knew, but it was a spoken truth that we never spoke about. To say, this one is the prophet's side chick. This one is the prophet's this. You know, constantly, call me Sihle. Call me, because the prophet, of course, was a non-South African, and he's still a non-South African. But he would say, call me Sihle, or call me Dudu, or call me whoever. So, worst prophet had a bedroom in his office. So, it was a norm where you end up not knowing how to tell the difference between your reality and the life you're living. Because each time you wanted to speak out and say, hang on, this is what I've noticed. I saw prophet sleeping with so-and-so, or I saw somebody within the church being beaten up, or I saw certain things. Nobody believed me. In my personal case, the prophet himself, he's the one that stood on the podium, and he warned people against me to say, do not listen to Sihle Sibisi. Whatever Sihle Sibisi says, don't believe her. She talks too much. She's a liar. Why? Because I was staying at the mission house, and I was previewed to seeing and knowing certain things that church members would not see.
So obviously, you starting the Kwanele Foundation was because of your experience and wanting to help other people the way that the prophet was trying to prohibit you from doing.
Exactly, because I'm saying 20 years later, I'm older now and my voice is valid. And I'm saying it's high time for me to speak and share what I went through. Because from this prophet, I was moved to another prophet in Nigeria. From Nigeria, I was moved. It was just a whole mess up that I was in, where I can't account for my life, but so many ills were done to me, to a point where my family was broken up. Because my father did not agree with this whole prophetic ministry. But my mom was the one that was pushing us to the church. So there was friction within the home. To a point where I'm in a situation where if you leave that church, you are told don't talk to so-and-so who've left the church because they are demonic, they are evil. So people who are still in the church will shun away from you, they will avoid you, they will call you names, anything to protect the image of their prophet, anything to protect the image of their papa, whatever it is. In my case, my own biological mom is still in that church. She's a senior pastor at the church. So as a result, she has no relationship with me and my children because of prophet. She cannot. I've left the church, so since I'm not part of the church, I'm this demonic person, I'm this evil person that cannot be associated with. So imagine that pain of seeing your own mom on TV, praying for people because they have a special TV channel, praying for people, speaking in tongues, praying for people and everything, but she has no personal relationship with her own biological daughter because prophet said, if you want to go home, I personally can't go visit my own mom at my mom's house. If I want to go home, I must phone. How are you? Can we come? Oh, I can't come. We had a prayer mountain. I must still talk to prophet. I'll get back to you. So that pain.
So what do you think
Drove Kwanele Foundation to be birthed, because I said, not in my lifetime will there be somebody who's victimized at the hands of churches, pastors, and the religious sector, and there's no one who will give them the ear to listen. Because when it happened to me, everybody said I was lying. Nobody believed me. And as a result, what happens? You withdraw, you fall into depression, and you want to keep things to yourself.
So what then do you think about 16 Days of Activism? Is it just another campaign? Is it working? Is it yielding any results that you're happy about, you know?
For me, I think 16 Days of Activism is just another campaign that the government is just trumping. Because when you look at it, women and children and men and young boys, they experience gender-based violence holistically. Why? The same way the government was able to put exorbitant fees, monies that came out for the PPEs and COVID-19, why can't there be a big budget like that towards gender-based violence, where we know that throughout the year, for 12 months in a year, gender-based violence is prioritized in our country? Why must it be that only during the 16 Days of Activism, we now must make a big noise about it as if it's something that we don't know? How many people get killed? How many? One thing I've noticed is that the only time government or the only time people start talking about gender-based violence is if there's a young girl that was found dead somewhere. There's a young boy found dead out there. If there's nothing like that, everyone is quiet. Everyone is silent. And that is why with Kwanele Foundation, people are writing to us. And when they write to us, Masego, we are mandated and obliged to open a case file. Now that case file, we've got within our foundation, the legal fraternity. We've got psychologists within our foundation. So whenever an email comes through, we open a case file and it's determined to say, is this a legal matter? What do we do with it, or is it a psychological matter? Because people are writing us with different issues under the Kwanele Foundation banner. And the difference with us is that we're not just about talk and awareness. We are solution-based. We strive to say rehabilitation must happen holistically for the victim and the perpetrator. Perpetrator, if you need to go to jail to be rehabilitated, you have to go that way. In some cases, they need psychological counseling. Even with the victim, that's what happens. But when it comes to this month of 16 Days of Activism, I think it's just a whole big farce because the government is not doing much. Just now, the ANC has reappointed somebody who was accused of being a pedophilia towards his own children or child. He was reappointed back into position. So that cringed me. I sat back and I said, but what type of government is leading us that is going to reappoint such people? I know they're going to turn back and say the person is innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, well, they've taken him out. They've decided to go back.
Well, thank God for that they've gone back on it. But why must it be that with our government, they'll always want to err, and then they'll say, to err is human, forgiveness divine. They'll want to make the mistake, then want to quickly retract and fix it. Why don't we just fix the wrongs now? Why don't they give us a hearing now to say, Kwanele Foundation, let's work with you. Let's help you fix the wrongs that are there. Because
let's talk about this march that you are you are embarking on today. Obviously, it's that time, those 16 days. It's that time for us to make a noise right now. Tell us more about this march. Where is it taking place?
Right. So we're having a march. We partnered with South African Women Fight Back. So we're having a march today at 11 o'clock, and we're marching from the Gender Equality Commission in Johannesburg, and we're marching to the Constitutional Hill. And we are making our voices known. We are saying enough is enough. We are standing against gender-based violence, and everyone was invited. We did send out notifications for people, and of course, you must wear your mask. Of course, we follow all the COVID-19 regulations about it, but we're having this march because we are saying, okay, Kwanele Foundation was just birthed now in August. So we cannot be silent. We need to be seen all the time, and we're making our voices noted because people are saying, how do we get hold of you? I'm saying, guys, send us an email. Email us on kwanelefundisi101@gmail.com. Send us the email. We will respond back to your email. We are even on Facebook. We've got a Facebook page called Kwanele Foundation, where people can interact with us and want to say we need help. I'll tell you something off the record.
Well, it's on record.
Oh, well, it's on record.
We're live.
On record. I won't mention names, though, but one government official said to me, Sihle, tell me, why are people writing to you? I said, that's because people feel failed by our government and its systems. Because we are sitting with cases of women, children, and men who've been raped, sexualized, harassed financially, emotionally, holistically at the hands of pastors and churches. So we're sitting with cases where people went and opened up cases at different police stations. People opened cases from 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, but those cases have never seen the sun. Nothing has ever happened. Why? Because the very pastors or the very religious sector has the financial muscle to somehow make those cases not see the light of day. So when people write to us, they are saying, help us. Go back and check what happened to this case. Now, I think the systems are tedious at times because even when we have a case number, Masego, we have to follow the processes. So we have the case number, our legal will write to the commissioner, and the commissioner will assist us to write to the SAPS. Then we're told turnaround time is 21 days for them to verify if indeed that case number is really valid and in existence. So I'll give an example with the Bushiri case. We had cases from girls. I mentioned
it's still something that is being discussed, yes. So we can't
really talk about
that. Yeah.
But the point is, we get cases that come our way. And when these cases come, we can't really act on it. We can't really do anything about it because what happens? We're still waiting. And we agree with the law. We follow the processes that be. But my issue is, why is it when it comes to gender-based violence cases, and when we say there were issues of rape, there's a young girl who was raped by a pastor and the pastor's son. The young girl, she was victimized in such a horrific way where she cannot hold her urine or her feces. She's in Pampers 24 hours of a day. The cases were opened in 2016, 2017, 2018. The family had to each year open a new case because each time they followed up, the case was subsequently just not there. We wrote to the commissioner. We went to the commission of gender-based, for gender equality. And we asked them about this case. We did our complaint. We're waiting. Till today, the girl has not been rehabilitated. Till today, we are told the girl, she still hasn't been taken to hospital for rehabilitation. We are saying, we are but an NGO. Government, let's work together. Help us get these cases resolved. We've got pastors that also write to us, because we're not against pastors. Pastors who are battling with alcohol abuse, substance abuse. They write to us, what do? We refer to AA. We work hand in hand with AA for them to be rehabilitated also. We've got pastors' wives that write to us to say, my husband beats me up. I'm bruised all over. But when it comes to church service, I need to pretend as if everything is okay, but nothing is okay. And I can't talk about it for fear that the church is going to crumble. We've got pastors' children that write to us. So we are not against the church. We are not against pastors, but we are the voice to the voiceless. Because if we talk about gender-based violence, we are narrowing it down into the religious sector. And we are saying we are the voice to those people. That is why I always say, if you're a pastor, a prophet, a religious person, stop your nonsense behavior if you're misbehaving. Call your congregation, put things right, repent, or do whatever that needs to be to resolve it. Because when people write to Kwanele Foundation, we are mandated to make sure that we run with those cases that people write, because not in our lifetime will we sit back and people continue being quiet and afraid to talk because pastor or prophet said, if I speak, I'll be cursed. If I speak, I'll die. If I speak, I'll lose my mind, or he will break families completely.
Sihle, thank you so much for coming in, and thank you very much for your time. Good luck with the foundation.
Thank you so much.
How old is it now? 5 months old?
It's about, no, actually it's about 3 months old. So
Good luck with that.
Great strides.
Thank you very much. That is Sihle speaking to us about Kwanele Foundation. She is the founder of Kwanele Foundation, a foundation that helps abused victims and survivors in the religious sector.